Have you tried Snapplique yet? Snapplique is a fun and easy method to take traditional quilting patterns and turn them into machine embroidery designs. In this particular series, I'm going to be doing Merry Christmas, and this is a beautiful quilt from Amy Bradley Designs, and it is a quilting applique design. We'll scan the pattern pieces into the Brother Scan and Cut and convert it into a machine embroidery design. You can even use the Scan and Cut to cut out all your pieces. If you've never done this before, I highly encourage you to give it a try. It's a lot of fun, and you will be amazed that you can make adorable blocks like this in just a matter of minutes. I hope you can join me and do Snapplique with me, where you can do applique in a snap. I'm getting ready to do the digitizing for the Snowman from Amy Bradley Designs Merry Christmas quilt. That's this guy right here. He's got a cute little bird that is going up into the sashing. If you're brand new to this process and this video series, I've got a video showing how all of the images were scanned from the paper pattern into the Brother Scan and Cut, and another video showing how to cut out all the pieces. And those two videos will be linked at the end of this one, so you can take a look at that. If you're completely unfamiliar with the Snapplique process, then I'd like to invite you to take a look at the Ghost video from the Happy Halloween. And that one will give you a baby step by baby step process of the buttons, what to push, how to do it, every little thing that you need to be able to do some Snapplique on your own. The placement sheets in the pattern have numbers on all of the pieces, and that is the stitch order for the design. I'm going to import the pieces from Brother Canvas. I've already downloaded them. They are in my downloads folder, and I'm going to go get them. The first thing I want to do is open up Stitch Artist, and that's this little sundial looking icon right here. And here is the vector button. I'm going to push that, and I'm going to get my Snowman. Over here in the objects panel to the right, I'm going to click this, and it gives me a stitch order. Now, this has already been placed in the correct stitch order, and you can see it just says lines. The first one, according to the paper, is the right ear muff, and then the left ear muff, and then the head, and so on. That's the first thing you do, is go through here, and you can move these around by grabbing them, and you can drag it up and down and hover it over the one you want it to be after, and that will change the stitch order. Likewise, you can just right click and move earlier, which will move it up one, or move later, will move it down in the stitch order one, or you can move first or move last. I don't mess around with the pieces right at first on the screen. I instead get the stitch order correct. And once that stitch order is correct, I want to save it, and I'm just going to tell it File, Save, Working File As, and I'm going to put it in my downloads, and you'll see it is snowman.be. This is one I was working on before. I'm going to call it Snowman 2. And embroidery files.be, that is the working file format for Embrilliance software pieces. I'm sorry, software files. Now what I want to do is get the pieces on the screen where they need to go. And the way to do that is to click on the image button, and it's right there. I don't know why it's down at the bottom in the file a long time ago. Well, I can't see it. Where did it go? I see it here in the image. It says image in the objects panel, but I can't see it. There is a button up here that looks like a little picture frame with a tree. That is what you will click, and now I see it, and I want to rotate it 90. I'm going to jump out of Stitch Artist, and I'm just going to click the rotate 90 degrees clockwise, and there he is. Now, very important, do not change the shapes to match the image. The image is not to scale. So you want to change the image to the size of the shapes. And I'm going to scroll back a little bit. I'm going to look for my nose. I'm just going to grab the nose piece. Let me do it up here. I get a hold of it. I'm going to bring it here about in the middle. And now I want to scale up until it's about the same. That's pretty close. Maybe a little bit bigger. That's really close right there. Now I know that the picture is very close to scale. I like that. And now I can start moving my pieces where they need to go, using the image as a template to show me where things need to be. Because the image is the right size now, in the objects panel, I'm going to make sure that it's highlighted, and I'm going to click the little lock up at the top to lock the object, and that's going to make sure that the image doesn't accidentally get resized. I'm just going to spend time now grabbing these shapes and putting them where they need to be. Look at all those nodes on that. I'm going to Control A to select all. Command A on a Mac, not that one. Control A to select everything. I want to make sure I don't have any broken graphics, so I'm going to come up to Create, Outline, and Reconstruct Outline. And that's going to make sure that everything, if we had any broken little graphics or whatever, that those will be fixed and they're not going to cause a problem when it comes time to get hidden stitches removed. I'm just going to move all these around. Everything is pretty much in the right order now. I'm going to fine tune this. This is a 9x14 hoop and it's kind of in the way. I'm going to come up to View and uncheck Draw Hoop, and that way it's not in my way. And I'm going to click on this button again to get rid of the image, and let's take a look and make sure everything is sitting where it needs to go. If I press the space bar, my hand comes up, my cursor turns into a hand. Let me get that right there. I'm going to align the 3 bottom pieces. I'm going to click, hold down the Control key and click all 3 of them. And I'm going to get out of Stitch Artist and go to my alignment tool, and I want to align bottom and apply. That got all of them the same there. On my earmuffs, I want to click both of them, hold down the Control key. They're both, I want to align top. There we go. They are the same. That looks really good. And I think everything here is looking fine. I'm going to put this like that. The collars on the scarf, they don't have to be aligned in the same spot. I guess you could try. Let's see. Let's align top. Let me move this so you can see if it changes. Yeah, a little bit there. Close. That actually looks pretty good. Making sure that these are the points end on the side of the head right here. If it doesn't exactly match the image, that's perfectly fine. That looks real good. The point is that from the top of his head, from the top of the bird and all of that to the bottom, things are straight. Bring it in just a tiny bit. This is going to be black and you're going to have white fabric on top of it. So you don't want a whole lot of black fabric under the white, or you might want to trim it after you get it ironed down and it's time to put the head down. You may want to just lift up those little edges inside of the earmuffs and give them a trim. This looks pretty good. Let's bring the image back. I'm going to go back into Stitch Artist. Yeah, he looks really good. He looks really, really good. I'm very happy with that. Now it's time to do the drawing for the little detail stitches. Oh, before I do that, let me Control A to select all. Let's turn this into Applique. We have different sections here. We have a drawing tool section and a stitch tool section. I want these to be applique, so I'm going to click the E-stitch, and that puts the E-stitches on there. I'm going to come down here to the properties. The properties box changes the properties of the object in the objects panel. I'm going to click that. I'm going to go to blanket, and my stitch length is 2.5. I want my stitch width to be 2.5 as well. And let me get out of this, turn that image off. Let's jump out of Stitch Artist, and I'm going to click on this button here, the scissor. This is to remove hidden stitches. And I've got some muddying going on here. These is kind of muddy. That's because they're too close together. I'm going to click on this ear muff and move it in just a little bit. You're not going to take away from the cuteness of the design with this. It just is going to look a little bit better. Let's see, that did the job there. This has a mess right here, and you can even see stitches coming up, sticking out from underneath. I want to select, I'm going to click piece number 6, and I'm going to go all the way down to the last piece on the scarf that includes the shoulders. I want to bring everything up just a little bit, like with my arrow key. I'm bringing it up 1, 2. I'm looking here to make sure I've got this, I've got gap right there. I'm bringing all that up. One more. Now this scarf, I want to bring it down. All right, and then this bottom, I think that might work. Let's take a look. That looks a lot better. We've got a little bit going on right here. So let me take this piece and bump it with my arrow key that way, 1. And let's take a look. Ah, that's much better. You can see just by manipulating the pieces just a little bit, you're going to clean up this muddying going on here where you can see the overlap. This one right here, I want it to come 1 stitch that way, 1 little click of my, maybe 2. And then this guy right here, I don't know if I need to mess with that. Let's see. Much cleaner. It looks like all the hidden stitches are going to be removed on these pieces. This is exactly what I was looking for. That looks great. That's how you do that. On the beak, that's a really tiny piece. Let me zoom in and take a look. That's real tiny. Let me get back into Stitch Artist, and I want to change my stitch width down to like a 1.5. Let's take a look at that. That looks a lot better. Let's go 1.8. There we go. That looks good. It's kind of a mess in there, but it's fine. It's such a tiny little piece, you won't see it anyway. If you have Enthusiast and you want to straighten up some of these stitches, you can click the Enthusiast button, which is up next to Stitch Artist, and you can just grab one of these and kind of straighten them out. See how these are all over the place? And that happens. Whoop, wrong one. Get right in there, and you can straighten these out. And that may help it look a little bit cleaner. Enthusiast is not necessary for the Snapplique process, but it does a pretty good job of getting things cleaned up. Like, we don't really need that stitch. I can just hit delete on the keyboard. And I don't know that we need that one either. This is going to be ironed down. So that looks a lot cleaner there. See, we got some weird things happening. That's just the software, you guys. It happens. You can play with this until you drop over dead. I've got 2 right here I don't need. I'm going to get rid of that one. Whoop. I do want to get rid of the stitches along the bottom. Those are not supposed to be there. And with Enthusiast, you can click on each one and just hit delete and make it go away. So you can do that. Another way to get rid of them if you don't have Enthusiast is to use the Stitch Simulator, and that's up here next to the select tool, and you grab it, grab the simulator. Let me scroll out so you can see what's going on. We'll run the simulator. Here are the blanket stitches. I want these, but I don't want those. And you can use the arrows to go back and forth. 1 stitch, back, back, right there. I don't want the blanket stitches after this, so I'm going to hit stop and just change the color. It doesn't matter to what. Now it has changed all of this to dark brown up to here. Then I'm going to run the stitch simulator again. Now I'm getting to the brown. Let me change that color so that you guys can, let me just change it. That way it's easier for you to see. Let's go to the red metallic. And now we can see all these red stitches. And all right, I want those stitches. I don't want those stitches. And it's gonna, right there, I don't want that one. I'm gonna, whoop, let me go back a stitch. All right, I'm gonna hit stop again, and I'm gonna turn it to black. The Brother Embroidery red, and just hit delete. And there you go. All right, now it's time to do the detail stitching. I'm going to, in Stitch Artist, I'm going to use these drawing tools, and the first one is the line tool, draw with points. I'm going to start underneath the earmuff, and I'm just going to make a point, and I'm going to go to about where the curve, and then another straight. And you can, oh, that's a little crooked. Let me control, I don't want to control Z. I'm going to click under here and get that straight. It's got a little curve right there. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to tell it that I want this to be a run stitch. Let me click the run button up in the stitch tools, and it says single. I want to make it a double in the properties box at 2.0. Enter. Now I can, when I go up to the line, my cursor turns into a black triangle with a little squiggly, and I can grab it and move it where I want. And that looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. It's the color of this, it defaulted to some kind of turquoise. That's fine. Maybe a little bit darker so I can see it. Just different color than the rest so that the embroidery machine knows I want it to stop and not throw that in with some other part of the design. That happens. And I want this to go down first. I'm going to, if I go move first, it's already first in the number 2. I'm just going to grab it here and let me collapse by hitting the minus sign. And then I'm going to grab the snowman and hover it over this, and that makes that first. And then I need the little legs on the bird. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to, let me zoom in a little bit better. I'm going to start here. I'm going to hit the draw tool and up under the bird and right on the line, hit enter, turn it into a run, and then right click copy, right click paste. It pasted on top of itself. And I'm going to move it over to where it needs to go there. And this also, yeah, these need to happen before the snowman start because I want those legs to begin under the bird. All right, now let's do, I'm going to come up to create design and begin new design. That'll give me a number 3. And then this will be all of the detail stitching that's on top of the snowman. Why do I do that? It's easier to make sure that things don't get stitched when you don't want them to if it's a different design. I click the circle button in the draw. I want to draw a circle. Hold down my shift key. That'll give me a nice little circle. And move it over just a little bit. And I want this to be a fill, so I'm going to click the fill button in the stitch tools and right click copy, right click paste, and move it with my arrow keys over. There we go. Nice. And I'm going to use the Bezier tool for the curves on the smile. I'm going to click here and cursor to turn into the black triangle with a squiggle. That looks good. And I want that to be, and here, enter, curve that up, and his smile, the Bezier tool, here and here, so that it ends right on the grin, enter, and then I'm gonna drag this down. There we go. That's great. All right, and one more, the detail stitching on his scarf. I'm going to use the Bezier, and I want it to start, click down here at the bottom of the design and enter, and then curve that a little bit. All right, and I want that one to be a run as well. Perfect. And I need eyes and the wing on the bird. I'm gonna do a little circle. I don't see any eyes. I think they're there, but all right, I want that to be a fill, and right click, copy and paste, and move it over just a tiny bit, maybe a little bit more. And then the Bezier tool, I think I'm gonna use the line tool, and I'm just gonna draw this little wing. The Bezier, I'll mess with that forever. I think this will be easier. And hit enter and turn that into a run. Perfect, much easier. I think he's finished. Let's take a look. I'm gonna make the image go away. I like it. Don't worry about all those jumps. That's not gonna show up when you stitch. That looks really good. I'm going to save this. I'm going to file, save as stitch and working. And I'm going to call it Snowman. Since I was doing this before, Snowman 3 PES, and save. He looks great, and he's ready to stitch out now. I'm getting ready to stitch out the snowman, and what I'm looking at here for placement is that the bird on the top goes, the blue runs right through the center of the bird's body. That's where I'm going to place this. I'm going to use the camera, the downward display function on the Luminaire, to see where it's going to be placed. But if you don't have one of these machines, just do a printout of the Embrilliance design. Just go File, Print, and print it out. And then you want to use that printout to figure out exactly where you're going to place that, and use the crosshair on the printout to accurately find that, and make sure that your needle is over that crosshair for 0 center before you start. Brought this up and I've clicked embroidery. And let's see what we've got. I've got black thread in there already. And I want to do the cone. Well, let me do a scan. And I'll just scan the whole frame with the fabric in it. Let's look at the screen, and then I can pretty much manipulate this the way I want to. Yeah, pretty close. I'm going to move it down. That's too far. Let me close this. I'll go to layout and rotate, and then I'll use these jog buttons to get the blue going right through the body of the bird, and that's about right. Maybe just a tiny bit higher. There, that's going to work just fine, just like that. I can see my pins because I didn't want to put pins down at the bottom since I'm floating this. I can see a pin over here, and there's a pin over here. Maybe I'll move it. I've got room down at the bottom. Let me go ahead and do that. It's not going to stitch down there. That looks pretty good. Nothing's going to hit the pins. Okay, and I'm ready to go. I'm going to use the needle plus minus to jump ahead and do the next layout stitch, the next placement stitch for the other earmuff. And I'm going to go backwards. Saves me trips to the ironing board. He turned out pretty cute. I've got a couple of things I want to fix. I need to make this line reach up here. I will finish that on the domestic. And I think I'm going to bring down the inflate on my pieces from 0.8 to probably about 0.3, 2 or 3. I think that will work a lot better. But overall, he turned out really cute. I've got a little bit of extra fabric around the outside of the blanket stitches that I'm just going to trim down, but he's going to look adorable in the quilt. All right, we'll talk to you soon. You guys go sew something. Bye.